Hello everybody, this is Curtis from PSNStores.com. Today we're going to take a look at Touhou Double Focus. This is one of two Touhou games coming out next week, March 21st. If I'm mispronouncing Touhou, please let me know. I believe that's how you say it, but I'm not entirely sure. And I'm not going to do it in these two videos that I'm doing for Double Focus and then also Gensai Wanderer, which is another Touhou game. The video should be up around the time this video goes up as well. But if you don't know what Touhou is, in each post in the video description for these two videos, I'll put like a short synopsis of like what it is if you're not unfamiliar. Anyways, these are two fan games. This one specifically is more of a Metroidvania, whereas Gensai Wanderer is kind of a roguelike. And first off, right off the bat, one thing I want to mention before we begin, if you go into settings from the main menu here, these are your settings. But at some point in Double Focus, I was able to access settings, and it had one specific option called respawn. It defaulted to off. And what that meant is that every time I died, it took me back to the hub area with the only save point in the game, and it didn't autosave. So every time you would die after exploring for a while, you could potentially lose a lot of time. However, if you turn on respawn, which you should do, basically what that does is every time you die, you just respawn immediately in the room you were in, and it autosaves and it ensures that you didn't lose any progress. So just to ensure that there's no headaches for you and no time wasted, I would recommend doing that. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and jump in. So this is my completed save file, around just under 7 hours. That is a 98% map completion. So and an 85% item completion. So that, in general, first playthrough, you're probably looking at around that much time, especially if you're exploring a lot. So to get 100%, probably not a whole lot more time to add on to it. And then this was from a video I attempted to record earlier, and then I just forgot to hit the record button. So that was great. So let's just go ahead and we'll make a new file. So basically the story here is we play as Aya, and then Momoji. These are two playable characters. One is kind of a ranged, has ranged attacks. The other has more melee focused attacks. And you'll switch between them on the fly. Kind of the setup here is that these two characters and then all of their friends have been transported into this book world. And so you're trying to kind of figure out how to get out. Essentially is kind of the long and short of it. We're just gonna kind of skip through this though, so we can get to the game. So this is a very this is a weird game. This game has an odd sense of humor. It's got a personality to it that I kind of like. So here's our save point. That is the one and only save point of the game. You'll be coming back to this hub area pretty often to save with these warp points. Right now, this isn't going to do anything, but take us back here. But you will get portals later on that basically act sort of as checkpoints. You can place them down anywhere you want, which is really nice. This character here, Kasumi, she really likes tight spaces. So as you explore the environment, you'll find like sarcophaguses, donut boxes, other assorted things that are just tight contained like boxes of something, and that when you show it to her, she'll be like, oh, that looks kind of nice, and then she'll just fit snugly inside of a donut box like it's no big deal. Or a bucket is I think the first item you find, so that's pretty funny. But with that said, so here's what we're looking at. So Aya, she's got kind of ranged attacks right here, right? You can jump. You can kind of double tap to do this like dash move. As you find new abilities and skills, you'll equip them, and that's kind of your square, triangle, circle as you see in the bottom right hand corner. The two characters, they share a health bar. That is kind of the teal colored bar up at the top, and then the yellow bar is your stamina. So you can switch between them at any point. So Momoji is a bit more melee focused. She's got a shield. she can use, whereas Aya has kind of this backwards dodge. Momiji also, if you double tap, she kind of runs along like a wolf or a dog. But she can kind of climb up walls too, and eventually get through tight spaces. So, anyways, let's go ahead and play this video game. This game is bizarre. It's weird. It's a pretty simple Metroidvania. It's not super long or anything. It can be very tough. A lot of the boss fights can be pretty hard. But again, without being too specific, and we might actually see one of these enemies in this video. So you have, like, you know, a lot of your standard enemies that you probably, that are maybe characters you would recognize from different Touhou games if you're familiar with the series of Touhou games in general. But there are also some enemies you'll find in this game that are there. There's no rhyme or reason for them to be there. They just are. They just show up. One is from a pretty well-known video game franchise. And then many others are from pretty well-known movie franchises. And there's no explanation for why they're there. They just are. And I'm kind of into it. Like, I'm kind of like, alright, whatever. I'll roll with it. You actually see some of them in the trophy icons as you get trophies in this game. But I kind of like that. I think that's the thing I like about this game, is it's got a weird personality to it. It's very goofy and it does not take itself very seriously, which I'm more than okay with. So as you see, we've been picking up some stuff. The perfect shot shows your stamina cost there, but this is something specifically for Aya. She is apparently a reporter. So some of the way she responds to things is more in line with her journalist self. So sometimes you'll find a new area and she'll be like, oh, we should come up with like a really cool fancy name for this place. And then Momiji, who's just not having it, she'll be like, why can't we just call it the castle area or the desert area? So there's some good like back and forth between the two of them, which is got a bit of a chuckle and laugh every once in a while. That's it. The game itself the controls are pretty stiff. They're not great. There are moments in this game where I think things come together pretty well. One in particular, the first boss fight. The way I ended up doing it is I was switching between Momiji and Aya on the fly. You know, like, just whenever I would need to block, I'd switch to Momiji, I'd use her shield, I'd switch back to Aya to do some ranged attacks. And just the way it worked is it blended together both of these characters' playstyle really well. And it was a lot of fun, and I think it showed what this game could be at its best. Unfortunately, there's not a lot, other than that, and a couple other exceptions, there's not a lot of moments where you'll be switching between characters often, or where it's required, I'd say. A lot of the other boss fights, I usually just stuck to one particular character, whichever one was suited best for it. But I think if this game maybe focused more on, maybe if the controls were a bit more polished and not as just kind of very stiff, I think there's some interesting concepts here that could go a long way. So like this stuff here, like, you know, you would have to climb to the wall and then switch like be very quick to switch, so you could dash across and get the cure book. That kind of stuff is interesting. I mean, I guess in theory you could just have one character with all these abilities, but I kind of like that it's two people. You know, I like that it's two different characters, and I like that you need to switch between them. I think that's pretty interesting. And again, there are moments where, like, that is required and it works really well. But I think for the most part, the game doesn't necessarily take advantage of that as much as I would have liked. But there are certainly enemies like this one right here where it's much better to fight them with Momiji than it would be otherwise. So this is actually a spot that I used for one of my portals. In my original save file, it actually worked out really well. So what you do, you just set a portal down, and you stand there and it will teleport you back to base. and then that way you can just quickly save and then get back to where you were. And that stuff works really well. I like that they just give them to you, and there's a good, you know, you'll get a good number of them, and you can just place them wherever. And so for me, like, I always tried to find a spot where I felt like, okay, I know I'm going to be backtracking a lot, so it gives you the opportunity to find a place that is going to allow you to put it like somewhere between different places you might come back to later on, just to make it a little easier on you when you do need to go back to different locations. It makes traversing the world a lot quicker than it would be otherwise, and so I do appreciate that quite a bit too. And I guess also, like, there are a number of different skills and abilities you'll find, some of which are for a specific character. Sometimes both characters can use them, a specific ability. I think I did find myself using some of your just kind of default, like, regular attacks a little bit more often than other things you would find later in the game. So I wish maybe some of your later attack abilities that you would find, different skills for each character, maybe they were set up in such a way that you would want to use them more, or you would need to use them more. And again, with just a couple exceptions, like, I think more often than not, I just found it better, or maybe even easier, just to use my regular default attack. Alright, so we found her head. Basically, if you explored a little bit more and you didn't really know what to do, you might find a body that's missing a head on the lower floor. That's her body, so we're gonna return that back to her. Oh, I got a trophy. Not entirely sure what that was for, but... Alright. One other thing I do like is, this is a kind of trophy list that when you view them together, it creates like a really tall image. They're all connected, and so it's a lot of like different characters like holding each other up from the game. So I appreciate that too. That's more trophy list specific, but whatever. Alright, so we returned her head, now we can move on. I'm trying to remember. Maybe we go this way. Oh, I do want to show. I really like this painting. Right there. It's pretty good. Oh yes, so earlier in this video I mentioned there's some odd, we'll call them cameos. One of which from a video game. Perhaps you recognize this one. So someone probably just sat there and said, hey, what if we put Pyramid Head in this game? I believe this is the only instance of a Pyramid Head in this video game. I think. I'm trying to remember if there's any others that I ran into. It's so weird, right? Like, no explanation, no reason for it to be there. It just is. It's like, why not? And that's not, I would say that's not even the craziest cameo. But I don't want to spoil it if you're gonna play this, since it's weird. It is something else for sure. So this area right here, basically, the castle area actually took me a little while to figure out, because I went into this room and I saw this door and I saw the key, like the lock symbol there, and I thought, oh, okay, when I find the key, I should remember this room, because I'll probably come back here and unlock this door. Well, the thing is, it already is unlocked. There is no key item. This is actually the boss room door. So I guess don't get confused into thinking that maybe you need a key to unlock the door. It's unlocked. You're good. But I don't want to show the boss. There's only a few bosses in the game, so I don't want to show too much. But this is I think it's a pretty good look at Touhou Double Focus. It is coming out next week, so I think if you're getting like the deluxe edition of Touhou Ginso Wanderer, I'm pretty sure this game like comes bundled with it. But I do believe they are selling this separately. I don't know what the price is gonna be. I would imagine it's probably not too expensive though. It's a neat thing. It's weird. You know, it certainly has its problems. Like control-wise, it's not the best. It's probably a pretty average game on the whole, but it's got personality to it. It's got some weird stuff going on that I can kind of get behind. In a way, so I still enjoyed my time with it. But I think this is probably something more focused towards people who are already pretty invested in the Touhou games in general. It's got a lot of characters that you would probably recognize anyways, and maybe you would care a bit more about the story itself. Like these characters they're goofy, they're weird, they've got strange quirks to them that you can still enjoy if you don't really know much about them anyways. But I think if you're more familiar with these characters, you're going to get a lot more out of the story part of this anyways. That said though, thank you for watching as always, and until next time, I'll see you later.